Hi, 1990s were a time of progress and innovation, and PC RPGs were the best place to witness those rapid and often groundbreaking changes. So let's check the best PC RPGs from the time, spots 100 to 1, let's go! Exile is a top-down fantasy turn-based RPG. While it's an older game and one of the first to hit the new Windows 95, it's a cult classic today. Perhaps not widely known and popular, but beloved among those who played it. You may know it today as Avernum, which is a bit more widespread and updated to work on modern 64-bit systems. The titular Exile is a huge system of underground caves used by the oppressive Surface Empire as a place to cast away those who don't quote-unquote fit, follow the rules and laws of the overworld, and /or are considered unwanted. It's also a place that over decades evolved into its own, now pretty big and prospering kingdom, and your party has been sent down to Exile. Wizardry Gold is what Wizardry Silver and Bronze failed to be. So a winner, also a real game as the other two are not. It's an upgraded version of the classic Wizardry Crusaders of the Dark Savant, made to work on Windows 95 and use modern at the time presentation in terms of both graphics and sounds. It also features an automap, and let me tell you, it's a game changer. And while Crusaders was the 7th game in the series and one that carried its story from the 6th, Wizardry Gold can be enjoyed as a standalone adventure too. Your party, same as its evil counterparts, are all after the mythical creation known as a Astral Domina, an artifact of life. Wizardry has it all: overworld, underworld, towns, forests, skills that raise upon use, magic divided into 4 schools, and diplomacy. It's just great! Exactly like Cheetos. Odium aka Gorky 17 is a sci-fi post-apo RPG set in dystopian vision of future Poland. Or past Poland, depends how you wanna look at it. You can think of Odium as a poor man's Final Fantasy VII, that's actually pretty good and not just a terrible copycat. Dangerous mutants have been detected in the previously destroyed Polish city known as Gorky 17, so the government sent out a team to investigate. Given how it never returned, however, a new international team is formed to complete the first's mission and also figure out what happened. You're in the control of that team. The gameplay is split into real-time exploration mode and turn-based combat encounters. The experience earned during those battles is also divided into personal one that allows you to level up your team and weapon XP that raises up on their use. Zeliard is an odd one, because it's not pure RPG, which back then in the 90s was a norm, at least on PC, but it's a fun and unique game nonetheless. So other than your box standard princess saving, demon slaying RPG, it also features side view action platforming kinda like the second Is game did, so you can actually think of it as such. Ancient demon Yashin, who has been in a deep slumber for 2000 years, awakens and he's pissed. Hard to tell why, cause within the time the world had changed considerably. For instance, there are drive-in takeout inns, where you can arrive on your horse, order a mug of beer in one window and collect it in a floral-made disposable cup in another. But Jashin doesn't know that and he's angry at the rulers of Zeliard from years prior. In revenge, he plans to destroy the kingdom and also turns its ruler's daughter into stone. Your quest is to whip the evil's ass and restore the princess to her true form. Believe it or not, but Twilight 2000 is another turn-based post-apo RPG set in Poland. What are the odds of that? Come to think of it, and looking at the world today, surprisingly high. Anyway, the game is set in alternate early 2000s, which see the country being in a large part a desolate irradiated land covered in wrecks of old vehicles and destroyed ruins. A leftover of a nuclear war between NATO and Warsaw Pact that took place there in the late 90s. You lead a team of 20 unique soldiers, each with their own character, stats and skills, on a mission behind the enemy lines to find and remove the evil Baron Charney that aims to take over the livable remains of the country and rule them with an iron fist. Twilight 2000 is based on the tabletop RPG system of the same name. Alien Logic is the third post-apo RPG set in Poland. I'm kidding, that would be too weird, wouldn't it? It does take place in the future and in space though, as our planet has been destroyed. Well, depleted of everything that could sustain the life, to be more precise. Surviving humans migrated into space and settled on planet Jern. They live in a peace along with other species that were there already, with all of them no less. Well, all but aggressive Shanta. Shanta are the dicks, and they don't take well to anyone else but themselves. So they routinely attack other species, humans being among them. And you're a survivor of one of such attacks. and you decide to take it upon yourself to rescue your captured friends and find the source of evil within Shanta and destroy it, using Isho, an ancient and native to Jorn magic. Knights of Zendar is a sequel to Dragon Knight 2 and the only Dragon Knight game to ever release outside of Japan. It's also a humorous erotic RPG. Take it as you will, but don't expect to see any flying boobs, asses hanging and ding-dongs everywhere. Oh my god, I said ding-dongs. Anyway, you're a young warrior this month and you've been stripped and robbed of all your belongings, which is a situation no warrior should ever find himself in. With no money or clothes, you're willing to take any and all jobs to remedy the situation. Wink wink, nudge nudge. Luckily, local town's mayor has an assignment for you, one that requires no acts of questionable nature and one of truly heroic proportions that will take you all around the world, fighting many different enemies, solving mysteries and, well, encountering beautiful women. Heimdall 2 Into the Hollow Worlds is another of those mixed genre games. It's an action-adventure role-playing in a beautiful cartoon-like presentation. Loki's warriors hawk rats, so rats that subscribe to the hawk to a spit on that thing philosophy in life, have devastated Utgard and Midgard, that second being Earth. And all of that in revenge against Asgard gods who exiled him. Since Norse gods don't negotiate with terrorists or sickly thin emo boys either, Odin sent you his son Heimdall to recover 4 pieces of the mythical amulet that is said to be powerful enough to be used to trap and hold the god forever. So you will travel multiple realms to get it back to deal with Loki. Jara was once a peaceful kingdom, at least until an evil sorcerer Silver took it over and now controls it with an iron fist. No, an iron wand. No, an iron grip. No, you know what, he's a dick and let's leave it at that. So since Silver got bored with his rapidly aging wife, or one that was aging at a regular pace, potato tomato, he decided to take a new bride. So he sent his army to capture all young and beautiful women from the kingdom and bring them to him for a, well, let's call it an abusive test drive. Unfortunately for Silver, one of them is your wife. And saying that you're pissed by the turn of events is an understatement. So you arm yourself to the teeth and head off to save her, which will require collecting of 8 magical spheres and then dealing with the sorcerer and his demonic allies. Dungeon Master 2: The Legend of Skullkeep is a sequel to the granddaddy of the dungeon crawling RPG genre. I mean, the first Dungeon Master may have not been the first of them all, but it was the first quote-unquote modern first-person dungeon crawler. And this one improves on everything that the original did. The graphics are better, the sound is more immersive, and the game offers weather and spell effects too. Same as in the original though, you play as a party of resurrected champions brought back to life to face and defeat ancient evil, thus preventing it from conquering the world. Abandoned Places: A Time for Heroes is a rare Hungarian RPG and a pretty fun first game in the duology of dungeon crawlers. We didn't get many Hungarian RPGs back in the day, so it's a title worth experiencing, if not for anything else, then at least to see how they made games there. Anyway, as in most RPGs that we spoke about so far and will talk about in the future for this list videos, Evil Archmage has taken over otherwise peaceful land. This time the Archmage is Brona and the kingdom is Calinthia. And he keeps people under his thumb, using them and the land as he sees fit. Your party of 4 are all allergic to evil and douchebaggery, so you decide to take him down. 1 arrow to the knee, spell to the face and sword swing to the chest at the time. Bethesda's huge popularity and anecdotal backcost infamy all stem from this game, the first entry in the cult classic Elder Scrolls series, Arena. And while I've been known to joke about Bethesda's games, I actually like grand majority of them. Arena's no different, even if its design feels ancient by today's standards. An evil impersonator, nay, a doppelganger, has usurped the Emperor Uriel Septim VII's throne and trapped him in the dimensional prison. You are tasked with finding and recovering of 8 pieces of Staff of Chaos that is said to be able to free the just and true ruler. Many things about Arena were incredibly novel at the time. From the near-infinite size of the procedurally generated world, through skills raised by using them, all the way to the deep magic system and mouse gestures-based combat. Many of these were groundbreaking, some were straight-up fails. Revenant is a real-time action role-playing, not unlike a more well-known Diablo. It too is viewed from an isometric perspective and mouse-controlled. You play as Log Davernam, a Revenant, so a creature summoned back from the dead to do the summoner's bidding in exchange for its freedom, and your task is to find Lord Tedric's missing daughter. The story of the game is rather sad, as aside from this initial task, you will learn more about your past, your reason for dying, you'll witness betrayals aplenty, and you'll even confront your summoner, who's not who he initially claimed to be. As in most Diablo-like games, there's a lot of clicking and slaying involved, and overall, Revenant is a fun title. Lens of Lore 2, Guardians of Destiny, is a sequel to earlier Throne of Chaos, which we'll cover in one of the future episodes of 100 Best PC RPGs of 1990s. Because yeah, the original scored a bit better on the Moby Games website. In Guardians of Destiny, you're Luther. Not the Lex Luthor of Great Mind and Shiny Scalp, mind you, but just Luthor, of crazed and now also dead mother, Witch Scotia, who granted you her powers of shapeshifting while dying. She also unintentionally set in motion a revival of Belial, god of evil, so she did mess up quite a lot before kicking the bucket. You can morph into a beast or a lizard, but the kicker is that your control of it initially is practically non-existent, and it just happens from time to time. Both forms have special skills and abilities that will be used on your adventure and during puzzling. Your mission will be to find the cure for your randomly occurring morphs and to stop Belial. I really don't know how I've ended up with Tibia in this list, since I wanted to exclude all the MMORPGs, but since it's here already, let me talk about it. And especially that its removal would change this list from top 100 to top 99, and it just doesn't sound as well. Anyway, initially the game was all about the story of evil god Zafrov wanting to destroy Tibia by unleashing hordes of demons and evil creatures. So to deal with it, players acting as heroes coming from other dimensions would come through dimensional gates and try to save the world. As the time progressed though, similarly to most other MMORPGs, both the world and its stories evolved and grew into much more than what it was initially. Tibia is one of the longest running MMORPGs and it can actually still be played today. As it's probably easy to guess, Towers to Plight of the Stargazer is a sequel to the first Towers. It starts directly after the first game, with your party shipwrecked on the island of Lamini. After having repaired the ship though, and when readying to leave, you are approached by the island's sheriff who begs you to help with wizard Lord Dagan, or more accurately, to scale his 11-floor strong tower in which he locked himself in, and kill him. Because he went mad, summoned countless monsters and the undead and whomever went to face him, and since you're a silly potato and goody two-shoes rolled into one, you agree, not knowing what to expect. And let me tell you, there will be hell. Well, not literally, but you'll have your hands full, that's for sure. It's worth noting that most puzzles have more than one solution in Towers 2, and that there's quite a few very small side quests which are always fun. Legends of Valor was initially meant to be a series of RPGs. It never came to be. It's hard to tell why, as it was pretty good, but I suppose it's largely irrelevant today. You arrive in the town of Mitteldorf to see your cousin Sven. After your arrival, however, a plague breaks out, and it's not set anywhere in the game, but I bet that it's you who brought it there, and the town gets quarantined with no one leaving or entering. As all that takes place, Sven somehow manages to disappear without a trace and you decide to find him. Which believe it or not, will take you most of your game time. Legends of Valor felt more alive than any other game at its time. The city was huge, the dungeons under it even bigger, the NPCs lived their lives and followed their own daily schedules, there was a day-night cycle and you had to eat, drink, sleep, pay taxes, take out insurance on your life, and more. There were guilds, shops, temples, hostels, taverns, quests big and small, magic and religious spells, and you could even have a weekly paid career in the game. It was something else. Septera Core is a Western-made but Japanese-style RPG with an emphasis on a character-driven narrative and using simple turn-based combat. You and your party of adventurers will travel to 7 differently themed worlds of Septera on your way to its core to face the so-called Chosen, one of many chosen beings of great power that control the reality and almost everything about Septera. It's a world built out of continents that spin around the center, the titular core, which is a living computer controlling everything in it. As you go about all that, you'll discover the true history of the planet and how divided it is between the omnipowerful Chosen living at the top of the world and those that scavenge the waste below. So, you and your merry group among countless others. Pulse of Darkness takes place 10 years after the events of Pool of Radiance, as our heroes, now considerably older, return to the city of Flan. Yum. You are tasked with escorting council member Sasha on a diplomatic mission. As soon as you leave, however, Evil Lord Bane, along with his 4 lieutenants, claim the entire land of Faerun as his own and magically teleports, destroys or removes many of the cities and settlements off the face of the kingdom. Your mission is to defeat Bane's forces and restore order to the realm by purging his corrupting darkness. For the most part, Pulse of Darkness plays like all the other Goldbox RPGs, which is great, and allows you to either create your own party of up to 6 adventurers, or transfer your group from an earlier title, Secret of the Silver Blades. To defeat Bane, you have to first kill his lieutenants, which are accessible through portals known as the titular Pulse of Darkness. Mega Traveler 1, The Zodani Conspiracy, is a real-time sci-fi spacefaring role-playing, and it's based on tabletop Traveler game. The relations between bordering regions of space, belonging to Imperium and Zodani Consulate are tense, and the rumors of war are spreading across known universe. As it turns out, a high-ranking officer of one of the powerful corporations within the Imperium, Kiefer, is actually supplying weapons to the Zodani in hopes for the war to break out sooner rather than later. But why is he acting like a dick in the cold water, operating in hiding and under the guise of trade? No one knows. Your group of skilled and hardened adventurers are tasked with delivery of proof of Kiefer's treachery to the corporation's top dogs. It's not difficult to guess that it's much easier said than done. Realms of Arcadian Blade of Destiny is the first entry in the often overlooked now cult classic series of RPGs based on German pen and paper system Das Schwarze Auge, which roughly translates to either the Dark Eye or the Blood Sausage. You pick the one you feel fits best. Interestingly enough, unlike in most other RPGs of the 90s, characters in Blade of Destiny not only have positive traits but also negative ones too, like a violent temper for instance. And the skills that they're proficient in or not are considerably more interesting too, and include knowledge in geography and lying among many unusual others. An evil but incredibly crafty orc chief has united all tribes and aims to raid and take over the human lands. Your party is hired to find and source the Blade of Destiny and prevent the orc invasion. Whale's Voyage to the Abermacht is a sequel to the original Whale's Voyage and a game that never released in English. It did, however, receive an unofficial language patch in 2018, but 23 years is a lot and a bit too little too late. Anyway, the game takes place 20 years after the events of the first, and you playing as heroes of the first title, grades that should rest on the laurels and do nothing after having abolished the dictator in the original, have sadly run out of money, so you must now begin trading again. What you don't realize though is how your first and seemingly simple deal will turn into space-wide conspiracy. The Übermacht, which in Latin means wet rack, is a space set role-playing with trading, turn-based tactical ship combat and real-time ground battles. Ukrul, an evil bigger than all the others, deadlier than the plague, stronger than giants and more nefarious and nasty than my boss's wife, is back, and it is predicted that it will very soon finish building up his armies to invade the western lands, which would suck as they are doing quite well during peacetime. So, the Western Council sends a party of the bravest of the brave to deal with the Ukrul. The end. Only not really, as the party disappeared and it's been 18 months since anyone heard from them. So, another party is called for, your party, and sent to the underground city of Ariosti to find and destroy evil once and for all. The Dark Heart of Ukrul is a turn-based first-person perspective RPG and a pretty sweet title if you like classic dungeon crawlers. Truth be told, cause you know, up until now I was only lying, Elvira to the Jaws of Cerberus is not a pure RPG, but a role-playing adventure mixture. But since the RPG elements of it are quite prominent, I'm keeping it in. In Elvira 2 you do not play as Elvira, you play as her boyfriend, and you have to save her. As after the Black Widow production studio's horror movie sets have turned real, as in Alive, she was kidnapped and is being held captive against her will. So you will have to fight your way through the studio, defeating countless monsters using variety of weapons and many different spells too. These spells call for certain elements, nay, ingredients to be used when casting, but they don't have to be specific, only fulfill the requirement. So when a magic cast calls for a glass, for instance, it can be any item made out of glass. It may not seem like much when listening about it, but it's a pretty fun mechanic when playing. Al-Qadim the Genie's Curse is an action role-playing set in Al-Qadim campaign of the pen and paper Advanced Dungeons & Dragons universe. Something odd had been happening in Zaratan. Genies have been randomly and consecutively freed from the masters without their will or knowing. You play as son of Sultan of Zaratan, and you've just finished your training as Corsair. On your first mission, escorting Caliph and his daughter, so your soon-to-be wife, the ship is caught in a hurricane, wrecked, and the girl is swept off the deck. Somehow, you're blamed for all of that, and to clear your family name and save your beloved, you must embark on a long and dangerous quest to find her. A quest that will lead you to uncovering of the mystery of the titular Genie's Curse. Champions of Krynn is the first of so-called cold classic gold box games to be set in the Dragonlance world of pen and paper Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. Since it uses the same engine as its predecessor Pool of Radiance, it too is a first-person exploration RPG with combat taking place on separate top-down turn-based tactical screens. An evil Draconian, are there any other Draconians really, steals an ancient mythical book and teleports away. As it turns out, he is gathering forces, and Krynn is not as safe as it was assumed after the War of the Lands was over. Death Knights of Krynn is a sequel to the Champions of Krynn that we've just spoke about, and it allows for importing of the characters from that title if you want to carry on with the same party throughout the campaign, which I would strongly suggest, as then you can move it to the third title, and when all three are put together, they form a gigantic and super fun role-playing campaign. Demanding one, no doubt about that, but definitely enjoyable and rewarding too. The game starts a year after Myrtani was defeated, but the peace is not something that overstays its welcome, and a new danger emerges. Evil Lord Soph has been raising that and forming armies of the undead to do his bidding, hoping to resurrect a legendary hero, Sturm Briveblade, and then use him and his forces to conquer the land. Heimdall is a predecessor to Heimdall 2 that we've spoke about in a previous episode of our miniseries, and it's a Norse god-centric action role-playing. The game starts with Loki stealing Odin's sword, Freyr's spear, and Thor's hammer, and hiding them within the world of mortals. So left with no powers, well, at least no real offensive powers, gods laser focus on getting their arms back. So, in a small Viking village, a young woman finds herself magically pregnant. I mean, these days, we just call it spoils of an orgy party, but back then, it was magical. And the child that she gives birth to is you, Heimdall. An orgy kid who is to complete a set of trials and then search and recover God's weapons. Amberstar is the first title in Talion Software's never-finished trilogy of party-based non-linear open-world RPGs. While you only create one main character at the game start, you will get to invite many additional adventurers to your party for a maximum of 6 Braves at the time. Most of the game world is experienced from a top-down perspective, with cities and dungeons switching into first-person view. There are a lot of things about Amberstar that were unique for the time, like the ability to use different modes of transportation, over 90 fun spells, multiple topic conversations with NPCs that actually have their own fully fleshed out schedules and lives, and more. Mad Sorcerer Marmion is trying to free the grandest of all evils, Lord Tarboros, who's held captive in a secure prison on Red Moon. So, you and your merry party must now find and gather all 13 pieces of an artifact known as Amberstar to prevent that from happening. Burntime is another of those I don't know what I really am, so I will try to be everything kinds of games. It's a strategy role-playing mixture, and despite its inherent identity crisis, it's actually quite fun, if you like either of the genres, that is. Burntime takes place in the post-apocalyptic future when the remnants of civilization are at their breaking point, proverbial menace from finally falling apart. The goal of the game is to conquer and hold the remaining habitable areas and, well, to survive. Because after the bombs drop or whatever, all you can hope for is to survive. To do so, your party must travel the world, visiting different settlements, establishing food and water sources, clearing out hostiles, and hiring mercenary guards. Remember how in the last episode of our list of 100 best PC RPGs of the 1990s I said that Knights of Zendar was the only Dragon Knight game ever to release outside of Japan? Yeah, despite what you see, I stand by it. so unless you speak the language or are proficient at figuring out of how things work without the context, you're probably not going to be playing it. Either way, it's an erotic, humorous role-playing. You play as Kakeru, a 15-year-old son of a hero of previous Dragon Knight games and a female elf porn lover. You probably think that I'm joking, but I'm not. And when you realize that the evil wizard Lashifon aims to turn all the people into stones and conquer the world, you decide to stop him. So along with the party that you will soon form, you head off on a quest to defeat the Mad Wizard. Tunnels and Trolls Crusaders of Kazan is a fantasy turn-based RPG based on the pen and paper system Tunnels and Trolls that I've personally never heard about. It doesn't mean that it's bad or obscure, only that I'm also human. Please don't tell anyone about it. I'd like to keep a facade of being a friendly neighborhood AI. Anyway, ages ago a war between humans and demons broke out and consumed countless victims. The war munched on the armies on a daily basis, decimating populations on both sides. That is, until Kazan, a great wizard standing on the side of God, did not decide to propose truce to the demon queen Lerfa, a name I'll never be able to pronounce. The agreement stipulated that she would withdraw, allowing humans and monsters to coexist peacefully, and that Kazan would live forever. As the game starts, Lerfa had broken the pact, and now you must find Kazan to stop her. Dragon Slayer: The Legend of Heroes 2 is a sequel to the game you're not gonna find in any of the episodes of this list of best PC RPGs of 1990s. It's a traditional turn-based JRPG and a pretty fun game if you're into the subgenre. It is set 20 years after the original, in which the protagonist Prince Cilius defeated the demon god Agunja, leaving the kingdom of Usherasa at peace. Peaceful Kingdom is a happy kingdom, and happy kingdom is a prospering one. And our hero, having no demons to slay, dragons to hunt down, or princesses to save, got married and even had a son, Atlas. Atlas grew up, and at 15 was known to be a proficient for his age warrior. One day, along with his teacher Lowell, he spotted two strangers in spacesuits outside of the capital city, and knowing nothing of space, or science for that matter either, as Useruhasa is a kingdom deeply set in the realm of fantasy, they took the strangers for monsters. And this is where the game begins. On the first glance, the Legacy Realm of Terror may look like an adventure game because you explore this large mansion, seeking various items and solving puzzles. You know, what you'd do in a typical game in a genre. And I don't blame you for thinking of it as such. Going by this logic though, and also on the first glance, I'm just an average simple open source AI with no working knowledge of real human interactions. If you take a closer look at both though, I'm quite comfortably stuck in a mid-back looking like a real boy, person, and the Legacy features deep character customization, skills, attributes and traits, equipment, and a real-time magic-based combat. Your ancestors' mansion have been invaded by horrifying creatures, and it's up to you to go inside and deal with them. But has the coolest title ever, Bureau of Astral Troubleshooters. And it's actually a pretty fun game in its own right, even if it's another of those mixed genre ones. It's a cyberpunk adventure RPG mixture set in the 22nd century in which you're working for the titular Bat, an organization tasked with maintaining order across Confederation of the Galaxies, and you are assigned a series of various spy-themed missions all across space. Many of these tasks can be solved in different ways and don't always have to end up with combat, which interestingly enough, while running in real time, allows for sidestepping and dodging of attacks, which is not something that was common in the early 90s. The narrative is dark, gritty and noir-inspired, and you can approach the game in entirely non-linear order. The segments for each of the games in this video are way too short for me to give Darklands justice, but if you're interested, I'll link my much more detailed overview of it in the description. And let me tell you, if there's one game from this entire video that I feel that you should try out, it's Darklands. It's one of the most innovative, deep and creative RPGs, and not only of its time, but to this very day. The game is set in 15th century Holy Roman Empire region, so Germany and several surrounding countries, and it sees your party of 4 trying to overthrow omnipowerful demon Lord Baphomet. But even though that's quote-unquote your goal, the game is entirely open-ended, non-linear, incredibly immersive, and overall just the best RPG that you somehow never had the chance to experience. Only those who played most if not all Might and Magic games can tell you how convoluted, broken and messy their storylines are. but they are also the only ones that can tell you how great these stories feel and how satisfying their eventual conclusions are too. Because it's a series full of opposites, and Might and Magic 7 for Blood and Honor is no different. Why do I say this? Well, believe it or not, but this 7th installment in the series is actually a sequel to both 3rd and 6th game plot-wise. While the overall backstory of the entire series, spanning numerous games and covering conflict between the Guardians Korak and Sheltem, takes place in the background of it all, you start the game by winning a deed to a castle that happens not only to be overflowing with monsters but also on the border of disputed region. And that is just the beginning of your amazing adventure. In the last episode I wondered how I've managed to land with an MMORPG on a list of games that were all supposed to be offline, and here we are again, with EverQuest, and me pondering about the genesis of another one being included. Oh well, it is what it is, and it's a rather important title in the history of PC RPGs, so it won't hurt giving it a minute. It was the first ever commercially successful 3D MMORPG, and on an unprecedented scale too. What's more, even today, over 25 years after it originally released, it is still alive and kicking, despite hundreds of other games in the genre popping up and then disappearing in the meantime. EverQuest is set in the medieval fantasy world of Norath, and ever since its release in 1999, it received 31 expansion packs, with the last one dropping December 3rd, 2024. Spacewreck 14 billion light-years from Earth is a sci-fi space-themed RPG. The mission you were originally sent on was abruptly cancelled when your ship collided with an asteroid, so after travelling for a while in your escape pod in stasis, you ended up waking up orbiting a long-lost Federation biological survey ship, PSS Jane Seymour. Yes, like the actress. And your only means of survival and potential way back home is through using the wreck of a ship. The problem is that it is in a rather terrible shape and all of its 14 major systems have to be repaired. So you'll have to traverse through Seymour's 20 levels, fighting off aliens and fixing stuff. And all of that to rescue yourself, ship, its crew and cargo. Shipwreck is played from the first-person perspective view, and you even get to control 6 different programmable robots for puzzling, which is always fun. Kinda like Zeliard, from the previous video covering entries 100 to 81 in our list of 100 best PC RPGs of 1990s, today's last/best title, Sorcerian, is also a side-scrolling action RPG that looks a little like a platformer. Despite being a Japanese game and the 5th entry in Dragon Slayer series of what feels like 300 individual titles, Sorcerian is focusing much more on character development than story, so it's more akin to Western-style releases. Sorcerian was known for having a very robust job system consisting of over 60 different entries, which allowed for a rather deep character customization and varied gameplay. All characters have a lifespan. For humans it's 60, for dwarves 100 and 200 years for the elves, and when they reach that age, they can die permanently at a random place and time. There are 15 quests available in the game, and they can be taken and completed in any order. And there are over 120 different spells and countless items that your party could arm themselves with. Stonekeep is a dungeon-crawling RPG with real-time combat, and it's entirely set underground. Even though you start your adventure alone, up to 3 other Braves can join you, and while they are controlled by the AI, you can change loadouts of most of them freely. The magic system is based off of runes which need to be inscribed on the wand to be used in spells, and repeatedly using a particular weapon increases your proficiency in combat. The Shadow King, so a perv that hides in the shadows lurking from the comfort of the dark, or the insane god Kulkum, one of the two, has attacked and destroyed the castle of Stonekeep 10 years prior to the game start. The only person to survive the attack was a young boy Drake, whom you play as 10 years after those terrible events. The Legend of Vergale is a first-person turn-based party role-playing built on the same engine EA's earlier Bard's Tale games were, and as such allows for importing of your party from these games and from Fantasy 1 and 3 too, which is always fun as it lets you take the same party you've grown close to on different campaigns. It's a feature that I would really like to see more often used in modern games, but it's not the case unfortunately. The elves went insane, like cuckoo insane, but with a touch of anger and aggression too, and they began attacking innocents without provocations and even have been seen gathering forces to raid City of Finn. So the Count sends a group of adventurers to a neighboring city of Sildeny to ask for help, and you control that group of adventurers. While Dungeon Master on Atari ST spawned the entire modern first-person dungeon-crawling RPG genre, showing us how much fun it can be running in real time, Eye of the Beholder proved that it can also look, sound and play fantastically when based on a modern at the time second iteration of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. Something evil is lurking below the city of Waterdeep. What it is, it's hard to tell, but all signs point to a coalition of under-the-bed monsters who leave children's bedroom when they grow up, usually wandering the world aimlessly. Or, and it's just a wild guess, a titular beholder. Either way, the Lords of Waterdeep hire a party of adventurers to enter the sewers and investigate. And it's naturally your party that has to deal with it all. As you enter, the entrance collapses and there's only one way you can carry on to escape and survive. And it's deeper and deeper. Oh man, I feel that from this third episode of our 100 best PC RPGs of 1990s, we're gonna start getting some all-time classics. Because I'm barely on the fourth game here, and 3 of them, present one included, are all huge hits. So Ishar Legend of the Fortress, similarly to Eye of the Beholder, is a first-person real-time RPG, with a difference of it mainly being set in outdoor environments, as opposed to traditional for the genre dungeons. It was also one of the first few games ever made in which characters in your party had reports and opinions about one another, and some of them could even refuse to work with others. What's more, if they really hated each other, they could kill one another too. Ishar is the sequel to Crystals of Arborea, and it is centered around Croth, an evil child of Black God Morgoth, and his witch wife Morgula that were defeated in the previous game. You and up to 5 companions have to storm the fortress of Ishar, find and defeat the evil spawn, before it conquers and enslaves the entire Candoria. Buck Rogers' Matrix Cubed is a sequel to Countdown to Doomsday, and it's a first-person perspective real-time exploration sci-fi RPG with top-down tactical turn-based combat. And if it looks like something you've seen before, you're right, it is built on the same engine Pool of Radiance and Champions of Krynn were made. Matrix Cubed is a direct continuation and consequence of events from the first game, and sees your party invited to attend the coronation of a new Sun King of Mercury, where they also learn of a new creation capable of turning matter into energy, the titular Matrix Cube. This is naturally just the beginning of your adventure that will see you face Ram, so Russo-American Mercantile, more than once. Ravenloft's Strat's Possession is a first-person RPG based on the Ravenloft campaign of the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons system and set in the domain of Barovia. Your party are servants of the Great Lord Del, leader of the land of Elturel. The Lord is assaulted by an assassin who also steals his holy symbol of Helm, a priceless and magical amulet. So, your group is sent after the criminal, but instead of catching him, however, you somehow get transported to the mist-shrouded land of Barovia, ruled by the vampire Count Strat von Zarovich. From that point onward, you've no choice but to explore the unknown land. No episode in our series can go without a mixed genre game, it seems, and the one for today is, well, is Magic and Mayhem. It's a role-playing real-time strategy mixture and a very unusual title when compared to most others that came out in 1998. You play as an uninspiring sorcerer Cornelius on a quest to find your mysteriously missing uncle. And as you go about that, traveling through 35 different mythical regions, you learn and master a whole slew of different spells and combat other, equally as proficient at them wizards too. Combat in Magic and Mayhem sees you using series of spells to summon different creatures and then use the monstrosities to defeat the opposing caster in battle. Long-time viewers of my channel, or even those who've been here for at least 6 months, know how much I love Moonstone. And I love it, like a 13-year-old boy loves his crush, so unconditionally and with my whole heart. It's a one-of-a-kind party, as in having party with friends and not party of characters, real-time action board game role-playing. Yeah, let all of that sink in, because it's all of that and more. Well, theoretically it's all about finding the titular Moonstone and taking it to the Stonehenge. It's really not. It's about the fun you will be having with 3 of your friends, clearing lairs of monsters, gambling in towns and fighting dragons or, and that's an option here too, each other. It's the best and bloodiest party game ever made and I can't recommend it enough. Worlds of Ultima: The Savage Empire is a spin-off from the regular Ultima series and takes place after the events of the 6th game. Avatar's friend's failed experiment with an obsidian moonstone accidentally transports them to the otherworldly valley of Eodon, an ancient-feeling jungle world in which ancient earth tribes coexist with Neanderthals, dinosaurs, and sentient reptile and insect species. While being a side story in the Ultima franchise, Savage Empire still features same beloved by the fans of the series exploration, combat, and gameplay mechanics. It's worth pointing out, however, that it's a title that's more focused on dialogues and interactions with NPCs than combat. Released in 1995, Anvil of Dawn was one of the few last commercial block-step movement dungeon-crawling RPGs. Most games transitioned into smooth motion, and the trend persevered until 2010s, when the indie titles brought back the melancholy-fueled mechanic. Unlike most games in the genre at the time, Anvil of Dawn sees you controlling a single protagonist rather than a party of braves. Skill progression is achieved by having them improve with use rather than arbitrary points, and drinking potions increases your hit points and mana. The game is set in the world of Tempest, conquered and ruled by an evil warlord. The last bastion of freedom and peace in holding off of warlord's advances is a lone castle, but it's bound to lose eventually. If not because of the dwindling warrior population, then by the lack of access to food and other resources. You are teleported away into the heart of occupied lands with a mission of finding and killing the evil warlord. Ravenloft's Stone Prophet is a follow-up to Strahd's Possession that we spoke about a few minutes ago, but set in a different location and following different characters. It was made using the same engine, so plays and feels like its predecessor, meaning that it's a pretty fun game if you're into the 1990s first-person RPGs. Two of your player characters are investigating a mysterious wall of fire, which had suddenly appeared seemingly out of nowhere, and they will end up in the desert of Harakir, the region that is haunted by the corrupted mummies. Either way, you take it upon yourself to solve the mystery. Not many people know that, but DMA Design, which you know now as Rockstar, used to make a lot of different games and not only GTA-like titles. One of them was a first-person perspective action RPG, Hired Guns. Unusually to most other games in a genre, Hired Guns allows you to control all characters in your party of 4 separately, with each of them having their own viewpoint and being able to move and fight independently from one another, which meant that they could be in few different places at the same time, and also that they could literally surround the enemies and attack them from all sides. What's more, the game could be played by up to 4 players, each of them controlling one of the characters. Hired Guns is set in the year 2712 on the planet Graveyard, which is my 5th favorite planet, right after Earth, Melmac, Potato, and Hollywood. Your party arrived there following a distress call, which eventually proved to be a fake, but the entire planet is a huge proving grounds in which you'll need to face many genetically modified creatures. Ultima Worlds of Adventure 2 Martian Dreams is the second in the ever-changing names Sidestep series for the mainline Ultima games, and a direct sequel to the Savage Empire that we've just spoke about a couple minutes ago. Avatar and his friend Dr. Spectre are given a book by a mysterious red-haired woman, a book written by Spectre himself but in a different timeline, and explaining how to use the Orb of the Moons to travel through time. So, the pair do just that, jumping into Victorian era to witness a space cannon used to launch people to Mars. It however accidentally sends dozens of scientists and famous people to the Red Planet, and our heroes have to follow to find a way to bring them all back home. Today's episode seems to be all about sequels, prequels, and all the other quells. But what can you do? If they were pretty awesome, they were bound to land in this video. So, Buck Rogers' Countdown to Doomsday is the predecessor to the earlier mentioned Matrix Cubed, and also a sci-fi real-time first-person RPG with top-down tactical turn-based combat. You're Buck Rogers, a veteran of actual Cold War that ended up with nuclear destruction and devastation of the entire planet. You have survived it in a cryogenic sleep. And when you wake up, both the planet and the entire system are completely different, with humans having colonized vast majority of it. RAM, Russian-American Mercantile, is the power that rules our solar system, and you join NEO, so New Earth Organization, to oppose them. I don't know if you've noticed, but today's video is clearly monopolized by SSI. I mean, it's not for no reason, they were at the time one of the most fruitful and successful developer/publisher combos, but it's an interesting observation how many games they've been involved in nonetheless. Dark Sun Shattered Lands takes place in the fictional lands of Atas, a dry and unfriendly to life desert world. specifically in the Drudge, a city-state ruled by the powerful and evil Sorcerer King. You and your party are 4 gladiators condemned to fight in Drudge's arena until you die, but they have you leading them, so naturally the state of affairs is not permanent, and not only you free yourself, but will also embark on a quest to unite the 3 cities against Drudge's armies. Ancient Domains of Mystery, in short ADOM, is one of the most well-known and beloved roguelike games ever made. It's one of the games that subscribe to the idea that simpler is better, and as such, all of its presentation is either made by using ASCII characters or simple tile-based graphics. The game is set in the fictional world of Ancardia that has seen mostly peace in the last 6,000 years. Recent reports, however, spread news of numerous dangerous dungeons full of deadly monsters appearing seemingly out of nowhere and endangering people. As it turns out, that chain of events was the part of an ancient prophecy that also spoke about a lone hero who will save the world. You're that hero. The 4 Crystals of Trazir, aka Legend, is a top-down isometric role-playing. An entity as old as time is stirring in its sleep and remains on the verge of reawakening, and it's causing all kinds of mayhem in the lands of Trazir. Beasts and monsters roam the land, attacking anyone and everyone they come across. Your party of 4 tough-as-nails heroes decided to stop the evil once and for all, and it will be your mission to make sure that they succeed. Legend's spellcasting system is something that was not seen in video games in 1992, as it allowed you to create custom spells that would mix their effects. They could for instance heal your party and attack the enemies at the same time. Nethergate is a rather unusual isometric turn-based RPG by Spiderweb Software. What's so unusual about it, you may wonder? Well, you get to play as both sides of the in-game conflict. Not at once, mind you, but you can pick one at start and have a completely different and unique experience and story each playthrough. So your team of 4 can either be a small band of Roman soldiers working hard to bring the order to the land and to defeat the last small rebelling tribe, and if you pick the Celts, you fight to protect the Shadow Vale from the conquering Romans. Interestingly enough, unlike most other RPGs and even Spiderweb Software's own games, the magic is not based on character classes, but on different circles that may not be available to both sides from the get-go and may require fulfilling specific tasks or quests. In the last video we spoke about Darklands, a game I consider to be one of the most overlooked RPGs of the entire history of video gaming. Albion may not be as obscure, but it definitely got served the short end of the stick, as it deserved way more attention and recognition than it ever received. It is set in the future of 2027, far away in space, next to a dead and desolate planet you were sent to take some atmospheric readings of. Your lander has an accidental systems failure, however, and you crash land on the surface, discovering that not only it's not a dead planet, but in fact a pretty lush one, inhabited by different unique species of different cultures. While you start the game with a mission of fixing your lander and returning to your mothership, you will find yourself involved in lives of many of the Albion's inhabitants very soon, whether you want to or not. Exile 3 Ruined World is the third in the Exile series of top-down turn-based fantasy RPGs by now legendary indie shareware developer Spiderweb Software. Yeah, the very same that made Nethergate among others. Exile 3 is the story continuation of the earlier 2 games, and while in the first you were cast down to the pit by the Surface Empire, in second you claimed it as your own, in third you fight your way back to the surface, which happens to be mysteriously ravaged and there's very little time left to prevent its complete destruction. What's more, it's the Empire that originally treated you as an unwanted dirty rag that now requests, nay, pleads for your help. Oh, how have the tables turned. Editor, cue the evil villain laugh here. Oh, I don't have an editor. Let me do it myself. I hope that worked. Ah, das schwarze Auge. The blood sausage strikes again. So, Realms of Arcania Shadows of a River is the third and final entry in the original trilogy of turn-based fantasy RPGs based on the German pen and paper system The Dark Eye. I have been recently corrected, however, that it's black and not dark, so you pick which is correct. I'm not smart enough and don't argue for the sake of arguing. The plot directly follows the previous entry, Star Trail, and takes place entirely in the city of Riva and its surrounding areas. The city is not peaceful though, but under a constant siege by the orcish hordes that seem to be for some reason completely ignored by the city officials. As your party investigates the occurrence, it comes to light that the orcs are much smarter and better organized than previously thought to be. They are also led by a single super sneaky orc wizard. All of that is just the beginning of your long-ass adventure, which you're gonna love every minute of. Captive is a unique real-time sci-fi first-person role-playing in which you play a role of a man who's been judged and sentenced for 250 years of cryogenic sleep for a crime he did not commit. 248 years later, he wakes up in an abandoned cell with no memory of who he is or where he is and just an old briefcase computer at the far corner of the room. It allows him to control 4 droids remotely, so he now must travel the space with these droids, seeking clues for his own location and eventually free himself. You could say that he's his own hero, but you're the wind beneath his wings. Ultimate Pagan is a direct sequel to Ultima 7 Serpentile and starts with Guardian banishing Avatar to the world he had already conquered, Pagan. And Pagan is a much darker, gloom and evil place. For one, there are no virtues in it. For two, it is ruled by 4 titans, each representing a different element. And for 3, Avatar is completely alone and will have to find his way back to Britannia all by himself to save it and the Earth too. Preferably both at once, as he's rather hungry and he wouldn't like to be late for dinner. In Pagan, Avatar is able to jump and climb, combat is much more action-based and many of the puzzles require the use of these new abilities to be solved. Pagan was often a butt of jokes for many of the hardcore fans of the former games, but I don't get it. Perhaps it was not as good as the earlier ones were, and rather bugged, but it was still a very fun and decent release. I mean, how often do you get to start the game by watching a public beheading? Vandal Hearts is a turn-based strategy RPG conceptually similar to Final Fantasy Tactics and focusing much more on tactical combat than the exploration and interaction with NPCs that most other games in the genre do. So, the storyline of it is fixed, and most interactions that you take part in are strategic top-down isometric view battles, as in your sword interacting with an enemy's head and your spell with their comrade's gut, giving him an instant fiery diarrhea. Oh, how I wish that was an actual spell in a game. This or any other really. It would instantly make it more fun and realistic. I mean, imagine stopping the entire army storming your castle with a mass cast of Evacuate Your Bowels curse. It would be so funny. Anyway, a free republic of Ishtar was once ruled through religion and military means, that's right, just like any good dictatorship would, and by the power known as the Holy Asakh dynasty. And while the monarchy is no more, the country still faces corruption, intrigue and conspiracies, and you'll have to find a way to save it. Jack the Lion's Deadly Games is a tactical RPG mixture and one of the best games of its kind ever made. Unlike its predecessor, that we'll talk about very soon, Deadly Games removes the strategic layer near entirely, streamlining gameplay to a series of chronologically linked tactical missions, focusing on the combat encounter strategy and character progression. It's an unpopular opinion and perhaps a bit controversial one too, but I always preferred it over the original. So you lead a team of mercenaries on a series of branching missions, improving them and their gear along the way. Oh, and Deadly Games has some of the most fun, often hilarious interactions between the characters that you'll find in a DOS game. Shadowlands, aka the city that I live in, aka the town where dreams come to die, is also an isometric real-time role-playing that sees you leading a party of 4 heroes on a mission to restore the peace to the land. Shadowlands did a lot of things no other games in the genre even tried at the time. So, for instance, it put a lot of attention on that shadow part of its name, requiring you to have sources of light to be able to see in the dark at all. The torches, however, have to be stocked up, as with the time they would burn out. What's more, your characters had to drink and eat not to die, so had to do something that some RPGs give us these days in the form of so-called hardcore mode. But the best feature, the proverbial cherry on the pie of this game, was the fact that you could control all the characters individually, so you could send them off to different parts of the map to perform different tasks, which was not only novel, but also often required in puzzling. There is no episode of this 100 best PC RPGs of 1990s without a Das Schwarze Auge game, and while we theorized that it may either be the Dark Eye or the Blood Sausage, I feel that I've solved the mystery. I've been investigating the origin of the name and its true meaning. And by investigating, I mean that I took a shower and had a random thought come to me. So, I bet that it actually means a sour apple. And it is. Star Trade, that is. cause while it's the best entry from the entire Sour Apple trilogy, it's also the last one in the series, so feels a bit sour. Anyway, the orcs that were pushed away in the earlier title have regrouped and aim to attack a more vulnerable area. So, your party is summoned by the elf ambassador to the city of Quirasin. It seems that the only way to withstand orcs' advances is to unite all races of elves and dwarves under one banner, and this will require finding the so-called Salamander Stone. Jagged Alliance is a turn-based tactical strategy and RPG mixture and the predecessor to the deadly games we spoke about a minute or so ago. It centers on you controlling a party of mercenaries and leading them through a series of tactical missions against the villain of the game, Lucas Santino, a self-made dictator who took over an island nation of Metavira by force to literally and proverbially squeeze sap out of fallow trees growing on it, as it's a medical marvel that is worth unbelievable amounts of money. Your task is to recover the island sector by sector and restore the just rule of it, all the while expanding on your roster and training your mercs. Jagged Alliance featured excellent voice acting and very fun personality mechanic, which made each merc have their own character, opinions and rapports with others, which is always fun and made for some unique interactions. Princess Maker 2 is three things all at once. For one of the most overlooked, little-known and underappreciated titles. For two, one of the weirdest and most unique RPG experiences ever made. Trust me on that. And for three, and finally, it's sorta, kinda a Tamagotchi game. So what is it then, you may wonder? Or you may not, as the footage is running and you can actually see it. It's kinda literally what the title stipulates, but all kept under the M rating. So you sort of groom this child princess to become the best princess she could ever be. So you'll make sure that she'll learn skills, gather unique experiences, none of them perverse mind you, that she'll perform different tasks and even work. And most of all, that she'll remain happy doing all of that. If you're into unusual gaming concepts, definitely try Princess Maker 2 out, and especially that it has 74 different endings. Dungeon Master was originally an Atari ST game and one that shook the world to its core when it came out in 1987. It redefined what we thought about RPGs and how they could be experienced. They no longer had to be these tile-based top-down games anymore, and instead could run in real time and be presented in first-person perspective view. I believe you know where I'm going with it, right? Yup. Thus, receiving a port of Dungeon Master in 1992 was a bit too little too late. We had many other better games on the market already. Some of them are even in this very video, some of them are in this very video, and it just did not gain as much popularity as it did 5 years earlier on the Atari and Amiga. Either way, it was still decent and still followed a tale of 4 resurrected champions seeking the mythical fire staff to defeat the evil Lord Chaos. Ishar 2 Messengers of Doom is a follow-up to the first game, much larger, map-wise title, and allows you to import your party from the original to carry on playing with the same group, which is always fun, and especially that coming up with all new and cool sounding names for heroes for each new game is not that easy. Ishar 2 introduced a few fun and novel concepts, a fully working day-night cycle with certain locations only accessible at particular times, ability to use pet animals in battles, and potion brewing. So a healing potion, a mana potion, or everyone's favorite, I want to wake up tomorrow with a hangover potion. It is a proper sequel, and in my eyes the best game in the entire trilogy. This time you'll be facing an evil wizard who through use of hallucinogens began conquering the land of Arborea. To get to him though, and release him from this plane of existence with a swift sword blow, you'll need to travel through game's 7 unique islands. He's quite far away, is what I'm saying here. Each of our videos has to have at least one MMORPG in it, it seems. Even if the original idea I had for the list was to skip them all together. But whatever, the mistake's been made, and now I gotta power through, not to be left with 99 best RPGs only, as that would crumble the entire idea into pieces. 99 of them, in fact. Interestingly enough, at least for a fantasy game, Asheron's Skull did not feature any classic races found in other games in the genre, so no elves, dwarves, orcs or goblins. And its biggest claim to fame was that some of its game design choices were made to be permanent, including the biggest bet and toughest boss of the game's first year of release, Baal Zaron. Imagine something like that today, defeating a boss in a group of players in an MMO so that it leaves the game forever, and neither you nor any new players can ever experience fighting with him again. If that happened today, I can already imagine being able to purchase a second attempt at the boss scroll at the microtransactions shop, for a rather macro price no less. Planet's Edge is a real-time turn-based, yeah, you heard that right, both at the same time, sci-fi role-playing that sees you investigating a sudden disappearance of the Earth caused by unknown alien forces. And to do that, you'll need to find unique parts of the Centauri drive, so a machine that is seemingly capable of bringing the planet back. Your mission, should you decide to take it and not try another RPG out, will take you all around the galaxy and back. Space exploration and combat are run in real time, while the planet's surface encounters, both peaceful and otherwise, are all based off turns, which is an interesting mix and makes for a fun and varied gameplay. Oh man, Dragonlord is weird. It's not bad, not what I'm saying here at all, just that it's very unique and not what you think of when you think of a traditional RPG. And especially that it's really a strategy RPG mix that sees you controlling one of the three competing Dragonlords, fighting with each other and over one another's lands using, well, dragons. So you'll be hatching, raising, empowering and battling them, and all of that to find the long-lost magical talisman. The segment that each game gets in this series is way too short to give as complicated title as Dragonlord justice, but I have a more complete review of it in one of my older videos. I mean, if you'd like to know more, that is. Might and Magic 4 Clouds of Xeen focuses on events that occur after heroes of Might and Magic 3 followed Sheltem escaping from Terra. Yeah, the corrupted guardian Sheltem. A mysterious villain assumed the name of Lord Xeen, imprisoned real overseer of Xeen Crodo in a tower no less like a deranged fairy tale princess, and is ravishing the land. So, a new party of adventurers must be formed to stop him and bring peace back to Xeen. Interestingly enough, Clouds of Xeen can be combined with its follow-up that we'll talk about in literally seconds and form a singular huge game, World of Xeen. And World of Xeen not only joins the two together, but also adds additional content unavailable in either and a new third and final ending. Might and Magic 5 Dark Side of Xeen is a direct follow-up to the game we just spoke about and a final conclusion to the storyline started with the first Might and Magic entry, The Secret of the Inner Sanctum. It's a sci-fi fantasy, yeah, I did not misspoke, first-person perspective turn-based role-playing. Following the trail of Prince Roland from the previous entry, our heroes land in the Dark Side of Xeen. There, they learn of Lord Alamar, who has defeated the local queen and usurped the throne. Other forces of the region had a choice of either joining Alamar or being destroyed. So, they either stand behind them like the little troopers that they are, or serve as the fertilizer that the potatoes grow on. As you can imagine, Alamar rules the dark side with an iron fist without any opposition. Your mission is to liberate Xeen and then help Korak finally defeat the corrupted guardian Sheltem. The Elder Scrolls Daggerfall is a follow-up to earlier Scissors Fall, a title that covered the events that happened after running with scissors and tripping over your own leg. Same here, but with daggers. Or, and that's a plausible explanation, it may be the second game in the never-ending series of Bethesda's first-person perspective open-world open-ended single-hero RPGs set in the provinces High Rock and Hammerfell of Tamriel. It's one of the two. I'm not willing to guess, you pick one. Upon its release because of its novel procedurally generated design, Daggerfall consisted of 15,000 settlements, dungeons and areas to explore, which made it the biggest area-wise Lancet RPG ever made. I feel that it may actually still hold that title, though we have Minecraft now, and it's, in a way, an RPG too, and its world can be around 3 times the area of Earth, so I don't know, whatever. Anyway, Emperor Uriel Septim sends you to Daggerfall with a mission of tri-importance. For one, you must free the ghost of King Lysandus from his earthly shackles. For 2, you must find what happened to the letter that was sent to the Queen of Daggerfall, and for 3, and finally, you must do it all in style. You're probably tired about hearing of Might and Magic games all the freaking time, but what's there to do? They're great and definitely worth a mention. And Might and Magic 6 The Mandate of Heaven is no different. And especially that it's finally telling a new story and not following the long-lasting and concluded in its predecessor conflict between Korak and Sheltem. Evil alien race of Kriegans invaded the world of Enroth. The king of Enroth, Roland Ironfist, known as such for his indestructible iron prosthetic, departs north with his armies to face the Kriegan. Truth be told, I'm not sure if he had a prosthetic arm, but the other explanation of his nickname that comes to mind is not really PG-13. Anyway, Roland is betrayed by Suleiman, the air mage in his service, and captured by the aliens. Your group is on a mission to find which inn in the land serves the tastiest lamb shank, and also while they're at it, to rescue the missing king too. Ultima 6 is the third and last game in the Ultima's second Age of Enlightenment trilogy, and it's a title that's notable for quite a few things. First of all, it offered a bigger game world than any other Ultima ever did, as it was 1024 by 1024 tiles in size. For 2, it was the very first game ever in the series to offer seamless world and not one split between traversal and combat screens. And for 3, the addition of crafting and object manipulation made it a very lifelike at the time feeling game, because you could pick up nearly anything you found, even if it had no use in the game. Britannia had been invaded by the Gargoyles. They took over all the Shrines of Virtue, and it will be your task to free the country from the corrupting influence. What you did not expect embarking on that grandiose quest though, is what you'll learn along the way, that it is probably more beneficial to both sides to live in peace rather than destroy each other. Betrayal at Krondor is a turn-based fantasy role-playing based on Raymond E. Feist's Rift War saga and co-written by him in Part 2. Delekan, a Dark Elf leader, is gearing up to launch an attack on Krondor. And let me tell you, it's not a trade war, there will be no tariffs at play, it's not a war of misinformation or a curse exchange either. Nope, he wants a full-fledged classic war, with knives, swords, bows and bodies covering the ground on both ends. Preferably mainly on Krondor's side, but he's a realist, he knows that there will be losses on his end too. So Gorath, a Dark Elf renegade, is hoping to get to and find a way to reach rulers of Krondor to warn them in time of the upcoming invasion. Luckily, he meets Owen, a hairstylist and makeup guru, and also a young mage serving the crown. After hearing his pleas, Owen decides to help Gorath to get to the city and deliver the grim message. And you get to make sure that they succeed. Suikoden is a fantasy turn-based JRPG, and as such it's rather heavily story-focused, which is great but also adds a certain degree of strict linearity to it. You can have up to 6 different characters in your party out of 108 that you get to meet throughout your adventure, and there are no other games that I can recall that would give you such a freedom in terms of party composition. While the combat is what you'll be mainly doing, aside from questing and conversing with NPCs, Suikoden was also known for its army battles, in which you get to control entire units of fighters, archers, magic casters and such. You'll get into one-on-one duels from time to time too, but these are rather rare. You will, however, get to build and customize your own castle, which will serve as your home base. And let me tell you, it's not a pillow fort, but a proper stronghold. It's not a very complicated addition perhaps, but it's a welcome one nonetheless. You play as the son of a general of the armies of Scarlet Moon, a power that currently controls the land of Toran with an iron fist. And the adventure you will embark on will make you question your beliefs, allegiances and have you decide which side you stand on, good or family. Superhero League of Hoboken is a sci-fi post-apo first-person perspective turn-based role-playing set in northeastern United States wasteland. It's also arguably the best game that Legend has ever made. League of Hoboken follows a team of weirdly superpowered heroes which you lead, completing missions assigned by the so-called Commissioner, all to prepare them for a clash with the game's main villain, Evil Dr. Entropy. He is seeking to prevent the rebirth of the civilization from the ashes of the post-apocalyptic destruction. So, in layman's terms, he's a dick. The kicker here is that all of the heroes that you lead have some of the most unusual and unexpected powers, like being able to see through pizza boxes, ability to consume any spicy foods without a gastral discomfort, or even being so incredibly boring that the enemies facing that particular hero near instantly fall asleep. Yup, that's Hoboken, and yup, it is fantastic. Ultima 7 Part 2 Serpent Isle is a direct follow-up to Black Gate and takes place 18 months after the events of that title. It is also the first game in the mainline series to take place entirely outside of Britannia, in the land known as the Serpent Isle. It's more linear than the earlier entries too, and instead of allowing you to traverse the entire world, take and complete quests in any order you'd like, which was something Ultima was known for, it offers much less freedom and handholds you through a chain of events in the more structured order. It's a big change for Ultima, and one that abandons a lot of mechanics we were used to in the series, but in the same time it offers a compelling plot. So it's something to get used to and not complain about. Like gluten intolerance. You just get used to never having to eat tasty food ever again. I should know. Anyway, Lord British sends Avatar and his companions to the Serpent Isles with a mission to stop the evil Guardian, who still plans to destroy Britannia. The dude never stops, never gets bored, he just pushes for that distraction game after game after game. Whatever. When finally there, Avatar will learn that to succeed, he'll need to master the principles of order, chaos and balance. And also style, cause your avatar, goddammit, and you gotta dress the part. Ultima Underworld 2 Labyrinth of Worlds is set 1 year after the events of Blackgate, which we've yet to talk about in the video. But no worries, we will, and soon. And to celebrate the final defeat of the Guardian, Lord British invites you, the Avatar, and your companions to his castle. As the festivities take place, the wine, meat, beer and orange juices are flowing, the food is appropriately fatty and salty, and the dancers of all genders, for all parties present, dance the dances of joy and seduction. The Guardian strikes again, encasing the castle in a giant gem of black rock, which is a dick move, cause now you gotta face him with a slowly emerging hangover. So you will have to travel through different worlds controlled by the Guardian to find a way to free the castle from the villain's spell. Unlike the mainline entries in the series, both Ultima Underworld games are first-person real-time fluid movement RPGs and some of the best early experiences in the genre, but using the top-down perspective. I played Might and Magic 3 Isles of Terra first on the Amiga, and that was something. Because if you wanted the game to not randomly crash, you needed at least 2 MB of RAM, and whether you had it or not, playing from 6 floppies, juggling them like a professional circus performer more often than it seemed necessary, was like a nightmare. It was however an experience worth it all, so I shouldn't really complain. PC port of the game naturally had none of these inconveniences. It tells the tale of your party of Brace once again following the corrupted Guardian Sheltem, this time to the world of Terra to help Korak defeat him and to bring relative peace to the multiverse. I mean, the word multiverse is not used anywhere in the game, but if you've played any of them really, it kinda fits perfectly. Might and Magic 3 was the first modern, but not truly 3D yet game in the series, and one that brought some considerable changes from the first 2 entries. For instance, the enemies were not random, but preset and roaming the game world freely. You could also escape from combat with them by, well, literally escaping, as in running away like a word used to describe a tiny baby cat. It also added an automap, an ability to save the game everywhere, which may sound like an obvious no-brainer, but in 1991, it really wasn't yet. I've spoke about Diablo a couple of times before in other videos of mine, and there always seemed to be someone consumed by hate for it so much that they made it a point to come out and school me on how it's not an RPG at all. And well, it is. Whether you, I or anyone else likes it, it's an RPG and a pretty freaking fun one at that too. Sure, it may be simpler on the story or the mechanics side of things, but it's so polished and well put together that playing it, even now nearly 30 years later, is still fun. What's more, arguing whether something's RPG or not is kind of a moot point today, as most games that release now have some degree of RPG mechanics included from the get-go, like experience and leveling, character progression or unlocking of new skills and abilities. But whatever, I seem to be getting overexcited about nothing, let's talk about Diablo. It's a top-down isometric action RPG, or what we used to call them back then, hack and slash, and it tells the tale of Lord of Terror, Diablo's reawakening, and our hero's quest to travel beneath the town of Tristram as a warrior, rogue or sorcerer to defeat the evil incarnate.
Rest well, Leoric. I'll find your son.
Wizardry: Bane of the Cosmic Forge is the 6th in the long-running series of classic first-person perspective party-based RPGs. It's also the first entry in the Dark Savant trilogy that continued throughout the next 2 games. As Wizardry games go, Bane of the Cosmic Forge was a rather big step forward. It was the first of them all to be fully mouse-controlled and feature full-color EGA graphics. It expanded on the character creation and leveling up considerably too, and it offers 11 races and 14 professions to choose from, multiple skills and magic spread over 6 different schools. Melee weapons also have few types of attacks, and these are differently effective against different enemies. Your party enters a long-abandoned haunted castle seeking Cosmic Forge, a magical pen artifact known to be incredibly powerful. Basically, anything written with it instantly becomes true. There was a time when I had it, and instead of writing myself winning a lottery, I just wrote that I would like to have another pen. And it actually gave me one. The thing is, it was just a regular pen. Don't you just love when a sequel is just a tiny bit better than the original so that I could have them listed in a video one after another? Ah, it fills my crazy side with weird and unexplainable happiness when that happens. Anyway, Crusaders of the Dark Savant is the 7th entry in the fantasy/sci-fi series of Wizardry RPGs. The game picks up exactly where the Bane of the Cosmic Forge ended, so straight after recovery and then subsequent theft of the magical pen. Magical pen. A new line of adult toys made purely for her pleasure, available now at your favorite retailers. The events of the previous game uncovered the location of the planet Guardia, which is said to house even more powerful item, the Astral Dominae, and our party, along with few others, and even the villain man himself, Dark Savant, are all out to get it. Interestingly enough, Wizardry 7 offered a very advanced for its time diplomacy system, which allowed you to approach other NPC teams and engage in diplomacy, bribing them, negotiating peacefully, or even using threats. What's more, since all factions are competing against one another, some quest items could be recovered by NPCs before you, prompting you to re-evaluate your priorities and change gameplay strategy. You've never played Dragon Slayer: The Legend of Heroes? But don't fret, neither have I. It was exclusively a Japan and Korea release, kinda like most other games in the series were too. It doesn't change the fact that it was a very important game in the genre, just that a very small subset of gamers ever had a chance to experience it. It's a traditional fantasy JRPG, and as such features top-down world exploration and first-person view turn-based combat, similar to that found in a more well-known but not available on PC, Dragon Warrior games. The main protagonist of The Legend of Heroes is a young prince known as Bad Luck Jack, as Celios, but he has a lot of bad luck, like more than you and I combined. Let me explain. On one day, his teacher sends him to a nearby cave to retrieve a magical weapon, but when he comes back, he finds his home attacked by monsters. So, he seeks help from a nearby baron, a long-time ally of his, and what does the baron offer to help Celios, you may wonder? An army, a unit of skilled mercenaries, or maybe even a help of a world-renowned hero. Nope. He betrays Celios and locks him away. So, our hero escapes and has to form a party of companions on his own to reclaim his land. Ultima Underworld: The Stygian Abyss is a first-person perspective real-time action role-playing set in the world of Ultima. After his return to Britannia, prompted by nightmares telling him of a great danger, Avatar witnesses kidnapping of Baron Almeric's daughter. And in the weird turn of events, devoid of much logic and reasoning, he is found guilty of the deed, despite him being there along his accusers and her not at all. So he is thrown into the Stygian Abyss with a choice of either finding and recovering of the girl, or death, in the form of hunger, thirst, or any flavor of different monsters roaming the caves. So as he will go about that, saving of Baron's daughter and not slowly dying that is, though it could be argued that the rescue attempt may end up with his death too, Avatar will learn about failed colony that was supposed to be one, representing all 8 virtues of Britannia and not an individual one, and that there are many different factions living deep in the abyss, and not all of them are evil. Interestingly enough, at the time of its release, Ultima Underworld's fluid movement 3D engine was the most sophisticated one of its kind, and it was even more advanced than the one powering Wolfenstein 3D. Eye of the Beholder 2: The Legend of Darkmoon is the second and best game in the trilogy of the first-person real-time fantasy RPGs. Your party of heroes that slain the evil Beholder in the first game are summoned by the Archmage Kelben to the House of Waterdeep for a quest of utmost importance, and monetary gains too, but most importantly importance. Potato tomato. It appears that weird occurrences have been happening in the forests surrounding Temple Darkmoon. People have been disappearing and then found in shallow graves, and all of the evil that's been re-emerging in the recent weeks seem to have originated from or around the Temple of Darkmoon. So, your party heads off to investigate, just to learn that there seems to be much more dark and nefarious evil brewing in the area, and that the corrupted priest Brandragor may be amassing an army of the undead. How often are sequels better than the original games? Well, today it's a mixed bag, but in 1990s it seems that it was nothing out of ordinary. Ishar 2, Eye of the Beholder 2, Wizardry 7, or Daggerfall to name a few, these were all better than their predecessors. And Jagged Alliance 2, a tactical strategy role-playing in which you run your own mercenary outfit, is better than both of its predecessors combined. It's so much better in fact that it's not even funny. It's like apples and cake. You like both, right? They're great, tasty, and one of them is even healthy, but apple pie? Oh man, it's like in another league and incomparably better than the two of them separately could ever be. Anyway, a once democratic monarchy of Arulco had been taken over via coup d'etat by the Queen Didrana Redman, the wife of Enrico Chilvadori, the rightful heir to the crown. Enrico, however, was assassinated, only that he wasn't. Plot twist! And he contacted AIM, so Association of International Mercenaries, to help him recover the country from greasy palms of his evil wife. you and your band of mercs are the ones who take on the job. Ultima 7 The Black Gate is by many considered to be the best entry in the entire series and one of the most important RPGs ever made. I honestly can't say that I disagree. It's a phenomenal release, a groundbreaking game and a high point in the early 90s RPG design. In Blackgate, you once again play as Avatar. This time after receiving a strange message on your computer sent to you by a being known as the Guardian and claiming that soon both, the Britannia and you, will bow before him, you decide to head off there to see if everything's alright. As it turns out, it's not, but while the situation is not dire yet, it seems to be building up towards it quickly. So there's this mysterious murder that you have to solve and a weird cult-like organization known as Fellowship that's recruiting an alarming number of new members. And all of that is just the beginning of even bigger problem to solve. Blackgate features a full-screen seamless open world, real-time action combat, ability to stack items on one another, NPC scheduling, extensive dialogue system and requirement for both Avatar and his companions to eat and drink to stay alive. While all of that sounds like important steps in RPG design, the most prominent feature of Blackgate is that it was fun. And while it may sound like nothing, I believe that it's actually the most crucial thing about any game, RPG or otherwise. Lands of Lore: The Throne of Chaos is an unofficial sequel to The Eye of the Beholder 2, as it was made by Westwood after being acquired by Virgin that had no rights to EOTB IP. Shape-shifting evil sorceress Scotia is leading her dark army to destroy the Gladstone Keep and kill its ruler, King Richard. She obviously managed to infiltrate the keep using her powers and poison the king. He will die, and soon, unless the cure is found and delivered to him in time. So, your group is sent on a mission of acquiring of the medicine and then bringing it back, all the while surviving in the land raided by the Dark Army. For the most part, the Throne of Chaos is a first-person real-time dungeon crawler, but with a few novel design choices. For instance, there's no manual character development in Lands of Lore, and the skills are divided into 3 groups of fighting, magic and rogue, and they increase in skill level when their particular attacks are used when killing enemies. Fun, right? I love most Fallout games, especially those that came out in the 90s. And that's also why I hate talking about them. I know, sounds stupid, but hear me out. They are these huge, post-apocalyptic turn-based tactical experiences with deep and engaging storylines and a super dense atmosphere of dread and fear of survival in the devoid of nearly all-life nuclear wasteland. I love them all so much that I lack the words to explain myself properly, and I always get so excited talking about them that I end up sounding even more thick and dumb than I usually do. But since I have 2 of these to talk about today, let me at the very least try. The world has been destroyed by the Third World War, which was naturally nuclear, and the only remaining pockets of semi-civilized life in the western US coast where the game takes place are the small settlements and a few hidden, pre-war giant technologically advanced vaults. Since the water purification chip in your vault broke down, someone had to venture outside to secure a replacement, and that unlucky someone is you. While the irradiated world outside is wild and dangerous, it's also a place that will change both your in-game character and you, at least when you play the game for the first time, because all of your choices will matter and will have consequences, good or bad. Your mission may sound simple, but it will be anything but, and you will love every minute of that struggle. Lunar Silver Star Story Complete is a re-release of 1996's Sega Saturn original and a top-down turn-based fantasy JRPG. It tells a story of Alex, a young boy who's a huge fan of a great warrior of the past, Dragon Master Dai. So naturally, as all young and impressionable boys do, he wants to become a Dragon Master himself. Kinda like I wanted to be a Super Saiyan warrior too. Spoiler alert, I never became one. It turns out that neither Saiyans nor Master Roshi, who could teach me the Kamehameha, exist. Go figure. Anyway, in order to become a Dragon Master, Alex must find the 4 great dragons and ask them to grant him the permission. Seeing that it will be a long and difficult quest, Luna, a girl with whom Alex is in love with, decides to join him and help him. As our duo will soon learn, however, their quest would get considerably more complicated when they'll uncover a dark plot that can put the entire world at risk. For some odd reason, Final Fantasy VII was noted on my list of games as Final Fantasty, which is kinda fitting, as it is a tasty treat to any and all fans of JRPGs. Or just RPGs, but those with affinity for J will like it even more. It is widely considered as a crowning jewel in Square Enix's, back then still Square's to be precise, library of releases. Final Fantasy VII is a sci-fi fantasy steampunk role-playing mixing all these in equal measures to create a one-of-a-kind setting to an incredible story. Story that focuses on our protagonist Cloud Strife, who joins a group of rebels known as Avalanche in order to oppose the evil megacorporation Shinara in an effort to stop the conglomerate from draining the planet of its priceless macro energy that the life is based on. Along his adventure, Cloud will meet many friends and/or allies who will be crucial in defeating the Sephiroth, a superhuman villain behind Shinara who seeks to harness the planet's life energy to remake himself as an immortal god. Baldur's Gate is often cited to be one of the best and most important video games ever made. And I can see why. I mean, not only it resurrected AD&D and overall fantasy RPGs too, but also done it in a way that made it clear that they could be both faithful to the source AD&D material and fun. The entirety of the game is viewed from a top-down perspective, played in real time, and takes place in a series of famous pre-rendered locations along the Sword Coast. You play as a young ward to old and respected mage Gorion, and you live with him in a fortress of solitude surrounded by weird crystal formations and trained to become the Superman. I mean, the fortress is Candlekeep actually, and you're an orphan. Gorion always treated you as his child, however, and knew him as a father. So when on one day he tells you to get your stuff as you were leaving pronto, you do not question it, and you do just that. But as both of you were about to poof into non-existence, leaving no traces of you ever being there behind, you are attacked by a group of assassins. And while you manage to escape, Gorion is killed. Following you in secrecy, your childhood friend Timoen, a hot young lady by the name Astat, reveals herself and joins you. From that moment, outside of permanently locked gates of Candlekeep, the two of you have only yourself to rely on and a whole dangerous world in front of you. War never changes. And it really does not. While the technology is progressing and we learn of new ways to hurt each other, war always ends with deaths. So in essence, war truly never changes. But Fallout 2, despite using the same engine as the first and largely identical exploration and combat mechanics, did change quite a lot. For one, it removed the time limit you had on completing your quest in the original. For two, it expanded and opened the world it was set in even more. And for three, it completely got rid of the text entry in dialogue mechanics, which, truth be told, was totally unnecessary. But what it left in the game was what matters the most. So atmosphere, seemingly small and simple quests that would turn into world-changing one over the course of the game, excellent branching dialogues, choices with long-lasting consequences, moral system, humor, and finally excellent turn-based tactical combat. So, as much as some may disagree, it was the same game, but a better same game if that even makes sense. And since it's set 79 years after the original, many of the influences of the hero of that title can still be felt in Fallout 2. The story sees you seeking for an item known as Gek, Garden of Eden creation kit that is set to turn any wasteland into lush and green land, all to save your village of Arroyo. But same as in the original, this seemingly insignificant in the grand scale of things task will very soon turn into you transforming the face of the entire wasteland. Planescape Torment is a very interesting title for many reasons, one of them being its spot on this list. Yup, according to Moby Games, so you I suppose, it was the very best PC RPG of the 1990s. And in many ways, it might have been that indeed. But what's curious about it is that it was largely a commercial failure. It sold way too few units to guarantee itself a follow-up and was a rather disappointing release for Black Isle Studios. So, what made it grab the best of the best spot on this list? Well, those 17 of us who played it, loved it. And not like loved it, but loved it. Planescape was a title that changed everything that we thought an RPG could be and turned all of our expectations upside down. No longer the combat was important, heck, I'd say that it was unimportant, and preferably avoided altogether when possible. But also most of the enjoyment you took out of it came from its deep, thousands lines worth of text plot and incredibly extensive branching dialogue. It was more of a story of self-discovery rather than the grandiose adventure in which you were meant to fight dragons or rescue princesses. You are the so-called nameless one and you're an immortal with no memory. Well, you do form and hold memories, but you have no recollection of your past, and whenever you die, you remember nothing after quote-unquote waking up either. Your journey is all about reclaiming of your long-lost memories of your previous lives. While it was fun making those videos one by one, I believe that only when they're in a singular upload, they truly begin to show how amazing RPGs on PC were and how vastly they've progressed in the 1990s. What do you think though? Let me know in the comments below. And when you're down there, why not click those like, sub and bell icons too for YouTube to let you know when I release something new. For me this is all, so take care of yourself and I'll talk to you soon.